Aloha! Hello everybody, Armored Pants here, and I have another video for you. This is the Russian line Tier 10 T-22 medium tank. I'm going to have a complete guide for you. This, as you know, was my #1 pick for the Christmas event, so if you are looking for a tank that you don't have in the Christmas event, and if it's available, you should get this, and I'm going to explain to you exactly why that is the case and why it is my top pick. Before that, just a quick reminder that we recently launched the Discord channel for this YouTube channel, so come along and join us there. You will be most welcome. I'm on there almost every day, along with some other great people and some other YouTubers as well. We're going to have a look at the tech spec for this tank, and as always, we will use blitzhanger.com for that. It's an asset that all blitzers should be using. As I said, this is my top pick for the Christmas event, so if you are looking for some advice, this is, as I said, my top pick. It's a super tank. In my opinion, it's OP. I hope they don't nerf it. I don't think they will, because it's a collectible tank and it costs a lot of people a lot of money when they got it. But just some of the reasons it's OP is its rate of fire, its armor, and for those reasons it's going to be expensive. I mean, this thing is pretty it's pretty rare in the game, because it's just so OP, I think, and it's going to cost you a significant amount of cash or gold, however it's going to be available in the Christmas event. But it's definitely worth it. Now, you know, in terms of a collectible or premium tank, its credit coefficient is not great. It's only 81%, but then Tier 10 has much lower credit coefficient averages than others. But you know, so put that aside. You know, we will look at the tank setup and tech and how we would you know, set this tank up to perform optimally. Now, I would run improved fuel and condensed milk and extra rations to max out the performance in terms of your provisions. That will max out view range, rate of fire, etc. I would run gun rammer, supercharge and vertical stabilizer on the gun system. You can also run calibrated shells if you want to, but with gun rammer you get 240mm of pen with AP. Heat your primer gives you 300mm, and you get 50 width of pen with HE. And that goes up to 252, 330 and 55 if you run calibrated shells. Calibrated shells pushes the reload time from 5.3 up to 5.8 seconds. So you lose a bit on that. But with those pen numbers, you don't really need calibrated shells so much, I think. Muzzle velocity is 1320 meters per second with AP and HE. And heat gives you a drop in muzzle velocity. It goes to 1170 meters per second. Now, the muzzle velocity of the tank is not that great, right? So it's about 20% less than other Russian team Tier 10 mediums. Gun index is 14, so it does have decent gun handling. And its mobility index is 9, so it is quite a mobile tank as well. So it gets around the map, and it has a pretty reliable gun system. It also has 6 degrees of gun depression, right? And this is really you know, your kind of standard, so it's the same as the T-62A, etc. And it has 18 elevation, so it has decent gun alignment. It does 55 kilometers per hour and 20 kilometers in reverse, and it also has a relatively decent power to weight ratio, which gives us that decent mobility index of 9. Now, concealment numbers at 306 view range, you will be spotted up at 228 meters. And your view range is 302 meters. If you're moving, you can spot it up at 245 meters, and that goes out to 282 and 286 if you're firing and moving. But if you're just moving at the start of the game, your concealment numbers are pretty decent. Obviously not as good as a light tank, but they're pretty okay. So you can spot and scout in this tank. Now, here's one of the major aspects of this tank. One of the things that makes it such a fearsome tank. I mean, this tank is tough. It's John Wayne of tanks. It's rough and tough. It takes no shit. If it was a person, it'd probably be Chuck Norris, right? Literally, it's going to just be kicking balls in all day long. You can side scrape in this tank. It has almost impenetrable turret armor. A little bit vulnerable at the top of the turret, but it's very difficult to hit. It has spaced armor at the side. You know, and it also has, okay, it doesn't have so much armor at the back, right, but okay, that's standard for any medium tank. But it also has these amazing armor angles, right? So and it's very low profile, right? I mean, really low profile. So it is difficult to hit this tank. It's difficult to pen this tank. If you see here, when you're top tier, if you're up against tier 9 mediums, impossible to hit to pen front on. But even when you're up against tier 10s, unless you're up against the biggest guns, you're going to get bounces in this tank. If you angle that armor front on, you're going to get bounces all day long. If you look at the historical reference, you can see that the A-22, which is a prototype that they tested just after the Second World War, and one of its key aspects was this really acute and multiple armor angles that they built into the body, and that's what gives this tank its ability to bounce so many shots, right? So it's not just about the actual armor numbers, it has significant advantage in terms of relative armor numbers because of those angles. This tank was never produced fully, but it went on to be the design and the basic design for other tanks. But those armor angles are going to give you a lot of passive bounces. So we discussed before on the channel the difference between active bounces and passive bounces. So active bounces are the ones that you actually play for. So by angling up, you know, or by side scraping or whatever. And passive bounces are ones that the tank gets that you don't play for. So for example, somebody's trying to shoot you at the side or whatever like that, and you get these passive bounces. This tank gets loads of passive bounces. It really does. It's incredible. If you've played against it, you'll know that, right? Just wanted to give you a quick check there against T-22A, and the object has lower muzzle velocity, etc., so it doesn't have quite as good gun handling as them, but what it lacks in that it makes up for, really makes up for in terms of its armor profile. I can't explain to you just how, if you haven't played this tank before, just how many passive bounces you're going to get in this tank. And we're going to have a look at some gameplay here. The rate of fire, by the way, is trollish. I mean, it's 5.3 seconds, right? And you're going to be doing 300 plus damage on average in per round. So its DPM figures are fantastic. If you, the type of player likes more pen, then of course if you go to calibrate shells, you're on a 5.8. But you know, I don't think it's necessary. I mean, the pen numbers on are pretty good. Plus, you know, a medium tank, your job is not really trying to pen things from the front, right? You should be trying to pen things from the side and the back. With this tank, you know, it is mobile, it is agile, it gets around the map, it has a fantastic low profile, it has a fantastic armor profile. It's going to get you active and passive bounces. It has a great rate of fire, it has decent gun handling. You can see here front onto the E100, no problem to pen it into the lower plate. And that's one of those bounces I'm telling you about, you know, just spinning it around like that and getting those passive bounces. This tank is going to get you bounces all day long. I have bounced 3 to 4k of damage in this tank in games. It's just incredible. You can ram in this tank as well because its frontal armor is fantastic. So, you know, it just has fantastic aspects to its gameplay. It's also sort of forgiving tank. So, you know, if you are not such an experienced player, well, firstly, I wouldn't recommend you get this tank if you're not an experienced player. You should be playing up at tier 10, right? It's going to be frustrating for you and frustrating for everybody else. But let's say you're an experienced player, but you haven't played mediums so much, and you're thinking, okay, I want to play mediums. You know, and I've played many games at tier 10. You can roll this thing out because it is forgiving, right? Definitely forgiving. In my opinion, it is the best medium tier 10, and I don't say that lightly because, you know, the Prog, I think the Progetto 65, I think is a great medium tank. I love the Object 140 as well. The E50M, obviously with that frontal armor, is really good as well. So there's a lot of really good tier 10 medium tanks. But this fucking thing is the daddy. It is the daddy. It is the omega of these tanks. You can see here we're going to have a circle of death situation against the E100. The E100 is capturing D. I knew somebody was capturing D, that's why I turned around to go back and engage, because I didn't want to lose this on points, and it's 4v4. But you know, I didn't really care who's coming to D, because in this tank you know that you can pretty much take out whoever it is if it's a 1v1. This shot here that the E100 gets onto me is the last one that he gets onto me. I'm down to 41 hit points, but it's not a problem. You can see here the mobility of the tank, easy to circle the death him. Even in what's not the easiest place to do it, I've got some dead vehicles around me which are blocking the natural path of progression, and you've got the hills obviously which slow down your ability to get around the tank. But you can see, you know, easy to get around them. Now obviously I would have a lot more difficulty in this situation if I was playing like an IS-7 or something like that, but obviously I'm not, right? So you know, you can only you need to play against the tanks that you are that you're up against, right? But you can see it is mobile, agile. I'm able to clear him off, and now I am able to cap the base, and now we're into a nice and easy situation where it's 4v1, and then we're going to have 2 bases to 1, so completely turned it around. The tank you saw in this going towards D, it took a lot of punishment, right? It took a lot of punishment, right? We had to clear off all of the meds and lights at D. Then on a 1v1 with the E100, it took a lot of punishment. Took that big hit from the E100 as well, but it survived, you know. And this tank is a great survivor as well. Yeah, I mean, it is. I'm tempted to say the cockroach of Blitz, but that's not a very flattering description. But it is. It kind of looks a bit like a cockroach as well. It's low and squat, and it has that sort of look about it, right? But this tank is a phenomenal tank. You know, and if you're going to get one tank, assuming you have the experience to play tier 10, if you're going to get one tank in the Christmas event, get this. You know, what a video I did with Meadsy recommended the AMX 30 Premier prototype at tier 9, right? Which is also a fantastic tank. But Meadsy also, you know, said that this tank is superb. You see there over 5k of damage in the medium tank is just great, right? But Meadsy hopes that this tank isn't freely available because he doesn't want to see too many of them out there because it's just so OP. I mean, if you've got a team with 2 of these on it, which you very rarely see, by the way, because there's not many of these tanks in play, right? But if you have a team with 2 of these on it, a tier 10, I mean, you know, a wolf pack of 2 of these or 3 is going to be almost unstoppable. You know, they're just, it's a phenomenal tank. The armor, the rate of fire, its mobility, it is OP. You know, but you know, it's a super tank. Now I hope that it isn't nerfed because it's a very expensive tank to get, right? And it will cost you some money, so just be aware of that. So let's have a recap. As I said, it is a super tank. You know, in my opinion, it is OP, or certainly borderline OP. Its mobility is great. Its rate of fire is fantastic. 5.3 second reload is just phenomenal. Its armor is OP. It's trollish. It has this low profile, has those angles that give you these higher relative armor numbers than actual armor. It's the total package, it really is. And it's also one of the reasons why it's so rare. You don't see so many of them, right? You can play in tier 10 for a couple of hours and not see one. You know, because when they were out before, they were very difficult to get and very, very expensive. And it will be expensive again, by the way, right? And it's not going to be easy to get. But if you want a tank in your collection, especially if you're a medium and light tank player who like playing your fast, agile tanks, then, you know, I would say get this one. Because if it's available and you can afford it and you do have the gold or whatever way it's going to be available in a Christmas event, if it's in the auction or whatever like that, get it. You won't be disappointed, I can tell you that. Because, you know, it's just a super tank. A lot of people, you know, a lot of tanks we say are good, you know, when we review them. But this is definitely one of the tanks out there. You know, it's as OP as a Smasher and Annihilator in their own tiers. So you won't be disappointed with this. And if you're a medium tank player, you know, you're definitely going to like it. So that's my recommendation. If it's available, I would definitely get it. You won't be disappointed, as I said, and it's something that will definitely be worthwhile having in your garage for now and for the future. So cheers much. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you found it useful. And now I guess all remains for me to say is pants off.